Hi there, teachers. Today's presentation is a very quick, very simple review of the concept of backwards design. I am assuming a little bit of familiarity with this concept from the classes that you've had previous to this, but also there's some supplementary readings and websites that I found particularly helpful that you want to take a look at before, after. Make sure you have a really good understanding of this because it will be important not only for this course but also for student teaching. In fact, I'm going to provide this video as well to my student teachers that I am observing. So hi student teachers, if that's you watching today. So backwards design is different from, and we're terming it forwards design. So let's pause before we talk about backwards design to talk about what may seem like a normal or standard way of planning a lesson. A lot of teachers work like this due to different reasons, but when we're really intentionally planning lessons, we're going to shift away from this. So this is sort of the traditional, the old way of lesson planning. So first, you probably decide on a unit topic, like, okay, I'm going to teach The Great Gatsby. And you probably selected it because you feel like it's a great work of literature. Maybe it was in the curriculum already when you went to your school. Okay, I'm going to teach The Great Gatsby. And then you start to plan your Gatsby unit. So you think, okay, to introduce the book, I'm going to do this activity where I, divide people into East and West Egg. Or maybe you're going to watch just a little bit of the movie to introduce the book. Okay, then what am I going to do for chapter 1? Okay, we're going to read chapter 1 and then we're going to fill out a worksheet with questions over chapter 1. As we do it, we're going to talk about setting to make sure they understand the East and the West Egg. Okay, chapter 2. We're going to read and talk about the characters. Oh, I've got this graphic organizer about the characters and how they're related. I'm going to have them note little aspects of characterization, draw a big web on how everyone's related. Okay, chapter 3. We're going to read chapter 3. I'm going to start to point out symbolism, and we're going to talk about symbolism. And then so on and so forth, all the way through all the chapters of the novel. And then you think about the test or the assessment that you're going to give. So, okay, and then I'll assign a paper, or we'll do a test, or maybe a paper and a test, or maybe I'll have them do some sort of project, something like that. Okay, so this is where your unit planning is really sort of a day-by-day concept. And as the Cult of Pedagogy article pointed out, sometimes students can find this a little bit pointless. Like, what am I supposed to be getting out of this? Because a lot of our students don't just want to read The Great Gatsby to think about cool works of literature, right? So it's not always the most intentional or purposeful as far as the skills that you want students to be getting out of doing this reading. Because let's face it, understanding the character of The Great Gatsby is not necessarily our priority, right? When we read The Great Gatsby, we don't need them to remember that and know that for the rest of their lives. Who is Jay Gatsby, right? That's not really the point of what we're trying to do in our class, although it's cool to learn about Jay Gatsby. So backwards design takes a different approach where we start with the beginning in mind. So we first prioritize and think about what our desired results are. What is it that I want students to really get out of this reading? That they can, a transferable skill that they can use in the future that enhances their literacy, that, relates to, big things we want our students to be good at, like empathy, right? All of these big critical thinking. So it can be, big and huge, or it can be a very basic skill, like, I really want them to know how to use a comma. Right? So whatever that desired result is, the big idea or the skills that you want students to get out of this. And then you think about, okay, well, how will I know if they have achieved that? So what's the best way to find out if students know how to use a comma? Is it a test? Is it a paper? Is it a conversation? Is it a project? And what's the best way to know if students can recognize theme? How will I figure that out, right? What's the acceptable evidence that I will know shows that learning? So from there, I actually, before I plan anything else in the unit, I plan the final assessment. What's that going to look like? And I design that assessment to test their understanding of the big ideas and skills that I identified in step 1. And then finally, this is when I do the daily planning. So now I think about, okay, with that in mind, what's the first, how do I introduce this unit? And then what should I really do with chapter 1 if these are my main skills and focuses? Or if I want students to be able to use a comma, what are the lessons I have to do to get them there so that they can successfully complete the assessment task that I have for them? So this is a way of making sure we're planning really intentionally based around these skills and objectives. So backwards design might look like this with The Great Gatsby. The first thing we do, that's step 1, determine our learning objectives. So I have sort of paraphrased one of the Missouri State Learning Standards. Students will be able to identify a central theme of a text and relate that theme to real life. So that's basically a standard. I've sort of phrased it as an objective. And this is pretty broad, and it's just an example for now, just so we can see the backwards design thinking. So what I really want them to get out of reading The Great Gatsby is we're going to practice that essential literacy skill, literature skill of identifying a theme and then relating that theme to real life. And I'm going to be really explicit in the unit, by the way, and say, as we're reading this, we are practicing this essential skill of identifying a central theme and then relating that theme to life. From there, I don't plan any of my particular lessons until I have the final assessment plan. And I have to stop and ask myself, what is the best way I will know if students can identify a central theme and if they can relate that theme to real life? How do I design an assessment that best tests that? And by the way, we'll also be thinking about differentiation. So are there many different ways that students could demonstrate that? And if so, can I give them options? Can I give them options of how they're going to demonstrate that they can identify a theme and relate that theme to real life? If so, if I can give them options, I should give them options if it's possible. So I put some different examples here. Maybe it would be best in a paper, but then I'd sort of be testing their writing ability too. Is that my goal? Is that what I want to do? Is that reasonable for them? Do they have those skills? Or a project? And if so, how can I make that project sort of equitable so everybody, regardless of their artistic ability, can be successful? Is it a presentation? Is it maybe like a Socratic seminar, a whole class discussion where everybody contributes in talking about these themes? Or is it a test? Can a test really test whether students can identify a central theme and relate that theme to real life? And if so, what would that test look like? So being really intentional with the final assessment that you choose. And then I plan the lessons of the unit based on preparing students step by step as we go through the unit to be successful on that final assessment. Not just so they get a good grade on the test, but so that they show mastery, or at least they're getting better at the objectives, those really important skills, abilities, habits that we want to prioritize in our classrooms. So from here, what activities support identifying theme and relating a theme to real life? So when I introduce The Great Gatsby, I'm thinking about theme to keep that unity consistent. So, if the theme is how, society is often divided into haves and have-nots. I don't know, right? I'm just making stuff up. But if that's the theme that one of the themes we're going to focus on, maybe I want to plan that into my introduction of the unit. Maybe also I need to teach them what theme is, even if they, quote, should know it by now, right? I'm going to have lessons that teach them what theme means. We're going to need to practice identifying themes. So maybe we're going to watch a couple Disney short videos, Pixar short videos, talk about theme, practice identifying theme, and connecting that to real life. As we read, I'm going to focus mainly on theme. And yeah, characters and setting relate to theme, so I can call that relevant, right? We're going to do that too. Sorry, my cat's being mischievous in the background. Sorry if you hear weird noises. And then I've got to teach them how to make connections between theme and life. So we've got to practice that in class. So I'm going to have to plan some lessons around that concept too. So I hope you can see here how in this type of lesson design or unit design, it's extremely intentional. We're not just flying by the seat of our pants day by day by day. Ooh, it's chapter 2. I got to come up with some sort of worksheet, right? It's what can I do to help them step by step as we get to the culminating assessment task, become successful at this skill or objective. So why does it matter? Well, for you all, we're looking for backwards design in some specific unit plans and assignments. We'll be looking for it in student teaching as you do your student teacher work sample. And in the lesson plan and the unit plan that we're going to do in 4972, if you're watching for that class, we're going to start from the end. We're going to start by determining those learning objectives and then work on the assessment and the instruction from there. So I hope this was helpful. Don't forget to take a look at the supporting resources too. Cheers.